to the Motive for Life radio show. This is Robert Christiansen. Thank you for joining me. This week, we're going to talk about getting out of a bad situation. Bad situations are in the eye of the beholder. Only you can determine whether or not your situation is bad or difficult, or if it's something that you need to get out of. And I assume that you're listening to this podcast because you're into some jam up, or you at least have some situation that you want to get out of and have resolution. And what I mean by getting out of a bad situation, it's wrapped up, it's taken care of, people are disconnected, they're not bringing up the topic anymore. The IRS is not chasing you, somebody's looking to collect money from you, you have a financial debt that you need to pay, there's a relationship that's gone badly, whatever the situation is in your life, getting out of a difficult situation is primarily what's on the top of mind for just about everybody. And so I wanted to give you a situation that I was in a while back when I ran out of money because my company was failing. Now, that's a bad situation, no doubt about it. And the challenge that I had was that I just didn't have any money. But it was more than that. The company wasn't performing, and I wasn't able to pay the bills that I had agreed to take on based on the amount of money that was coming into the company. And so there was a whole bunch of hair on this problem. I was having difficulty making payroll. It was like 2 employees. It was not a big company, small, little technology company. I couldn't pay them and pay me. And so that's the absolute worst place to be in as an entrepreneur, is not being able to make payroll. But more importantly, if you have a mortgage or rent and car payments and stuff like that, that you're trying to get done for yourself and your family, and you have a choice between paying the people or paying your own stuff, you pay the people first and then deal with your own home situation secondarily. Now, I've known other people that get that flipped, and then the business immediately fails, right? Because you can't have a business without having employees that are actually doing the job and committing the services. So I had put myself into this very difficult situation, and I had to deal with it, and I had to find a way out. And I remember going to a advisor of mine. His name was Tony, and Tony kind of boiled it down to me with regards to where was I responsible. And at the time, I really didn't want to hear that shit from him, because he was basically saying that I was blaming other people. And at the time I was blaming the clients for not paying fast enough. I was blaming the current economic situation for this. I was blaming a whole bunch of other people, except for taking ownership of my part. And what was my part? My part was all of it, 100%. Every single aspect of that problem was mine, but I was not seeing it. I was not in the middle of the situation in an ownership point of mine. And that's the key, is that until I was able to say, this is my responsibility, this is my ownership, all my power to change the situation was in the hands of somebody else. And when the power to change the situation is in the hands of somebody else, I have no power and I have no way out. And when I have no way out, I feel like a victim. And when I feel like a victim, I feel trapped, I get angry, and I start doing stupid things. And when I do stupid things, they have downstream repercussions that create more situations for me. So at some point, I'm going to have to stop blaming other people for the situation that I'm in and shut my mouth and start listening to what the suggestions of the other people in my life were telling me. And so when that happened with Tony, which didn't happen overnight, coming out of the bubble of being a victim and then owning your own path into the future is not easy. It is very cathartic. It is very scary. You have no place else to go but yourself, and you have to take on that responsibility. And when you do, that depth of ownership and that depth of confidence kicks in. Now the road ahead, the path out of a bad situation starts to appear. And I was in such a desperate state. Like we were 30 days away from really having bad news around our mortgage, right? I mean, just a lot of pressure in the space there. I was having a hard time buying groceries and telling my wife that we had money problems at a depth that I wasn't ready to admit even to myself, let alone admit to her. And so I was jammed up, man. And until I took ownership of that and started sitting down and really owning the situation, I was stuck. And so Tony caught me at a very important inflection point in my own personal growth around what I was going to do with my life with regards to ownership. And that was the moment. I had a very deep and meaningful shift inside me that started off with close to the world is ending, suicidal thoughts like nobody's going to want to be around me because I am worthless. That I cannot do what I said I was going to do. My family is better off without me because this is one more time that I was unable to get the ball over the finish line and actually succeed. Now, this led to all other conversations around self-worth, right? This is very important in my personal story that I did not have the worthiness to succeed. So there was so many other variables on here, but the very first thing I needed to do was to take ownership, to stop pointing at everybody else for my problem. And so we did that. And what I went on the path of doing was getting out a sheet of paper and writing down the situation, what was the problem, and my part. This is important, my part. I agreed to start this business. I volunteered to be the CEO. I was the one who told the clients that these were the services I was selling them without going deeper on the cost of the service versus how much money the business needed for fear that that client would say no and I would sell nothing. So what did I do? I ended up creating a sales model that was less money than was sustainable for the business and me. I only created it for the business itself, but not me. That's my fault. I did that. And then there was a series of other things about that business that I had to take ownership. The next layer one was the lack of transparency of sharing this with my wife and where we were in the situation. I wasn't as clear as I needed to be. As a matter of fact, I was pretty unclear about it, right? Because I didn't want to look bad. And I was, one more time, just trying to manage it all myself. And so when I sat down with her and I actually walked through what was going on right here, oh, she was pissed. She was very pissed because I wasn't truthful. I wasn't honest about this because I wasn't owning it. And when you don't own the situation, things just keep going bad. All right, so I had to clean up that mess too. I had to earn my way back into her trust over years around disclosure around where we were financially. And that took a long time. I had the messes behind me. The stuff that I'm teaching you is not the result of I woke up one day and suddenly, boom, there it is. What ended up happening was I had to start with the ownership of all of my behavior, not just being a good father, or, being a husband and all that kind of stuff like that. That's day one stuff. That I actually did really well. It's the finances. It's the not looking bad in business. All that stuff, I had to own it. And I had to take my part and look at where I was wrong and what I was doing. When I did all of that painful work, laid out all the debts, laid out where we were financially, laid out our opportunities, then and only then was I able to see a way out of that bad situation. And it took some pretty drastic measures. I had to liquidate a bunch of assets. One of them was our dream house. And our dream house was just that. It was a beautiful house. We had purchased it. We had done well. Thank God we had done well. And we had some money in it. I had to sell it, which broke her heart. And to this very day, I wish I could have handled it differently, but that's not how it went. That's not how it went. For me to navigate out of that situation, to pay back the people the money that I owed them, to get the company into a situation where I could sell it. All of those things had to happen. But I had to get all of the creditors and everybody off my back, and I had to liquidate whatever assets I had. I had this really nice truck that I loved, couldn't afford that, sold it and bought a $2,000 truck. This was a piece of shit. You should have seen this thing. We bought another car. I mean, it was not good. It's not good, man. And so it took ownership. And every time this topic came to the surface, my lovely wife would remind me, and God, I hated it being reminded, but I had no choice. I had to own it until she got to the point where she felt comfortable. And that took a number of years. Today, there's a deep sense of trust and financial security around our family because we have transparency and we have ownership. I want to tell you that the way out of the bad situation you're in or a future situation you're in is to write out the situation, what the problem is, and then what your part is in it. What did you do? What did you agree to? Even if it's 0.5%, what did you agree to? And take ownership of not just that piece, but all of it. The whole happiness around that situation, all of the challenges around that situation, and own it. It is yours. You are the person responsible for it. This is Robert Christiansen with Motive for Life. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk with you next time. Bye.